Buckle up. We're talking about Britney, bitch. Oh
Yes,
my
I
god.
have so many thoughts, head.
So this week, the New York Times released Framing Britney Spears on Hulu. It's a documentary that examines how the pop star's father, Jamie Spears, ended up in control of her career and person, and how Britney is now trying to regain control of her life. So the documentary gives us background on Britney's childhood, her early success in the Mickey Mouse Club, and also her rise to becoming this pop princess in like the 90s, early 2000s, as well as her mental health issues in 2007, 2008, and her life now, and like the ongoing battle with her conservatorship. And it also looks into the hashtag Free Britney movement. So a lot was revealed in this documentary. It's like an hour and a half. Like I said,
Yeah.
it's on Hulu, and I wanna we want to talk about some of our key takeaways. There's a lot of key takeaways in this. So the first one, okay, so when she blew up in the 90s and like the early 2000s, she was very people really sexualized her and like kind of, and not kind of,
Mhm.
they slut shamed her, and people were always like talking to her in interviews about her boobs, about her virginity, about her sexuality, and kind of like making it seem like they were basically saying like you're slutty, like why are you dressing
Right.
like this. And they also, like, something the New York Times pointed out is like Britney came to fame and like blew up around the time of Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky, when like everyone was slut shaming Monica Lewinsky.
Yeah, and I think a huge I mean all of it, I just want to say this whole hour and a half, hour 20 minutes, whatever it was, every single moment was so important, I think, to the
Yeah.
story. Which I think a lot of documentaries will put things that it's like, this part doesn't we don't need to see this. But like every single part equally made me so angry and equally was important. And I think in the very beginning, even before she got that oops, I did it again fame and before she really became mainstream, I think even this was maybe around the time of Mickey Mouse Clubhouse or maybe right before. She had just done a performance. It was her and a little boy. She was like 10 in this. And the interviewer was this old man and he was like, "Do you have a boyfriend?" And she was like, "Oh no." And he was like a 10-year-old. And he was like, "Well, what about me?" And she's like, I don't
Oh
know."
no,
And
because
it's just
she said
like,
she said no because they're mean. And he said,
yeah.
"Well, how about me?" I think he was referring to like mean, like, and then she's like,
I
sometimes."
feel like it was like a double
Yeah,
entendre of him saying, "Well, what about me?" Which is like so fucking creepy. Like to say that to any woman in any interview, but especially a 10-year-old.
10-year-old. She was so,
And
yeah.
it's just like from the beginning she was so hypersexualized, and it's very frustrating because she had no control of that narrative. Like she was of course like of course like her doing the oops, I did it again was a sexual like
The
of course it
song,
was like
yeah.
her stomach was showing, it was like a song that was like that, but it's like that was that, and everyone in the media kind of took that way overboard, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
and I think something that I kept thinking about especially in the beginning was the way she was hypersexualized in interviews the way she did. And I just think about, like, I am a huge Ariana Grande fan. I think everyone knows this. I have her right there hanging up. But it's just like I love, for example, her new album, and it's very sexualized. And I think about how people didn't take that and run with it and make that her
Mhm.
whole thing. But for Britney, her whole personality, it seemed, and everything she was asked about was something hypersexualized, which is
Yeah,
so it's absolutely, it was just so infuriating. Like I
yeah.
was angry, angry, angry watching it.
And it's like, and she would say like, well, like, she would kinda try to defend herself, like, they would literally ask about her breasts on interviews, and it's
Mhm.
just like, why is it a topic for discussion? They're like, "Are you a virgin?" Like, why are you point blank asking that? Like, especially, like, you're not
Right.
asking the boys that, and that also brings me up to my next topic, which is Justin Timberlake, who I've
Oh
kind
my
of
god.
been over. Okay, first of all, I love Justin Timberlake's music,
Mhm.
especially his music from, like, 2000, like, 10s, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm kinda over him as a person. I am over him as a person. I've been over him for a while, but this documentary was like the last straw, you could say. They talk
Mhm.
about her relationship with Justin and how it ended, and how he basically said that she cheated on him. He implied that she cheated on him or did something that really broke his heart. And I wanna point out, I did my research, there's no evidence besides Justin saying this, that she ever did anything to cheat on him, that she was ever unfaithful to him, or that sh or, like, we know nothing of what she did to break his
Mhm.
heart, except what
Right.
Justin says. It's like Justin took control of the narrative. He literally, in the Cry Me a River music video, has someone who looks like Britney go in
Mhm.
and, like, so basically villainizing her, and it's just kind of like people were then talking so much trash about Britney and making her seem like a terrible person, and it's like when it's like, we don't know what's true, we don't know what isn't, well, we're just believing Justin Timberlake, and he also did
Right.
something very terrible at the Super Bowl when Janet Jackson was
I was gonna bring that up,
the Super
yeah.
Bowl halftime that Janet Jackson was the star of, and she brought in Justin Timberlake, and he pulled her freaking top off, and you know who got
Mhm.
controversy? Janet Jackson. Do you think she
I
wanted her boob in front of the whole country? No. Is she
Right.
the one who took it off? No.
I think about that so much because it's like Janet Jackson was completely seen as this like awful person after that. Or I mean,
Yeah,
her career essentially got ruined after that. And it's like Justin Timberlake, no, that was not part of that narrative whatsoever. No one
no,
brought up him. No one said he did that. No one, and it's just like it's so. I'm so angry just like thinking about this and talking about this because it's like the way that like, it would have been so easy for Justin Timberlake to say something to not do that to Britney Spears and to say something in defense of Janet Jackson, and it would not have been as bad for Britney or for Janet. But he
exactly.
decided not to. He just was like, "Yep, let's ride this out. Like, this is helping my image." And it's just like, oh
Yeah.
my god, it's like
And
actually so beyond.
it's so frustrating, and so not a fan of Justin Timberlake anymore at all.
Mhm.
And then also
Yeah.
another thing, her 2007, 2008 was a very difficult year for Britney Spears. I think the whole world knows that. There's people have
Mhm.
really capitalized off her downfalls or off her in general. People have capitalized off her. But it's really sad to see. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, 2007 is the year I got sucked into pop culture because of everything happening with Lindsay Lohan, Paris Hilton, Nicole Richie, Britney Spears. Like it was just kind of a train wreck of a year for pop culture, but also like a very successful year in the sense of the news that was coming up. But it's just like
Right.
Britney was not okay. Like she was going through so much. She lost custody of her kids, could couldn't really
Mhm.
see them. She was going through so many struggles and people just called her crazy. She was sent to the
Mhm.
hospital twice within, I think, a month. She, people like looked at her shaving her head and were like, she's lost it. But they didn't like think about like, well, what is she going through? Like maybe she's just over it.
Mhm.
Maybe she just like wants to
I
shut
know.
off all this thing that people are saying about her. Like people are like, they interviewed paparazzi or one person in particular. The guy, so there's like video and pictures of Britney after she shaved her head attacking a
Mhm.
paparazzi's car with an umbrella. They interviewed the guy whose car she hit with the umbrella, and he was like, he made it seem like what he was doing was okay. He was like, I was going up to Britney, and so he says like leading up to that she had gone to Kevin Federline's house, who's the dad of her 2 children. She had gone up to his house, and he didn't let her go in and see her kids twice. So Brittany was already in a bad state, and they go to, like, a Jiffy Lube or something with her cousin, and she's in the car just waiting for her cousin to come back, and there's paparazzi all over, and this guy is holding a camera, and he's like, "Brittany, I'm just gonna ask you a couple of questions, you can answer, and then I'll go home." And it's like,
Mhm.
why like, if you know she's in a bad state, why are you even, like, talking to her. And then she's frustrated and she says and she tells him to like fuck off and hits his car. Obviously, not a good look. But also, like, why are you doing this? And then the interviewer asks the paparazzi, he's like, well, did she ever say like, leave me alone? And he's like, yeah, she'd say like, leave me alone for a day. And it's like, there's a video of Britney literally saying, leave me alone. Or when people are fighting, she's like, I'm scared. And it's like, people never left her alone. It's like, people just went on and said she was crazy and like profited off this quote unquote meltdown, but they never thought like her mental state is not good. She needs help. Like we need to stop attacking her and following her every single move because this is contributing to her terrible mental health.
Mhm. I know. I think, God, I mean, something that really stood out to me in the documentary was she was being interviewed by Matt Lauer, who at the time was in working. And he asked her, "Is not having the paparazzi around you your biggest one of your greatest wishes?" And she said yes, and then immediately just started crying. Now that, like, we're more aware of mental health struggles and maybe we're experiencing them ourselves, it's just so sad to see what she was driven to do, because this was something that was built up for like 9 years. And finally she had enough, and we look at it like, oh, this person with the umbrella, like, why did she do that? But it's like, these people, she, what could she do? These people would not leave her alone for 8 years. It's, I don't know, it's just like, it, you really see her side when you're watching this documentary, especially.
What would you do? Like, like, if you were put in that situation, like, I'd be freaking over it too. I'd wanna hit their car with an umbrella. Like, it's like,
Literally.
she has nothing left to give, and so this whole thing happens. She goes to the hospital. She, is sent to UCLA again for the second
Mhm,
time, and it's a 5150 hold, which is pretty intense, and so after
mhm,
that, they give her the conservatorship, and
mhm,
she reluctant you have to agree. So she reluctantly agrees, and it basically is like I don't wanna say the beginning of the end, but I think it is in a way the beginning of the end for a
right,
lot of things for Britney. Like, yeah, when you look at it from a outside point of view, you're like, "Wow, Britney's comeback was pretty freaking amazing." Like, the fact that
mhm,
she had this meltdown to that meltdown, quote, she was having health issues, mental health issues, but you
right,
see her, like, struggles, 2007, 2008. By the end of 2008, she's released an album, she's touring, she's doing,
mhm,
award shows, she's, like, back to being, like, the pop princess everybody loves, but you're, like, literally, like, 6 months ago, you were in a hospital getting help. Like, how is this
right,
healthy? Like, yeah, the comeback is great, but, like, how are you doing? Like, did they address any of the issues Britney was having, or did they just force her to go back to work? Like, on paper, it's like, wow, look, like, her dad, Jamie, who's in charge of her person and her finances, is like, look, I was able to turn it around and make this so profitable, and now she's good and she's consistent. But it's like, is she, like, behind closed doors? Like, how is she? And they
mhm,
just, like, put her to work, and she did Vegas residencies. I mean, she became the queen of Vegas before her having a residency. Everybody kinda looked at, like, you having a residency in Las Vegas is like, "Oh, your career's over, and, like, now you're going to Las
right,
Vegas," and she really changed that narrative. And so, obviously, in 2019, she was gonna announce her
mhm,
second Vegas residency at MGM, and she ended up canceling and,
right,
saying her dad was going through health issues at the time, so she said that was the reason she didn't wanna continue, and she hasn't worked since. It's not that she needs to,
mhm,
but apparently as long as her dad's in charge of her conservatorship, she's not gonna work. And that's kind of when the Free Britney movement started, and she's come out in support of the Free Britney movement and said she really appreciates her informed fans, and, like, she's been very vocal about not wanting her dad to be in charge of her finances or her person, and so it's really,
right,
like, you just really feel bad for Britney. She's been through so much, and it's like, I think as a fan and as a Britney lover, I just
mhm,
want, like, whatever makes her happy, and I think that's what a lot of people in the Free Britney movement want too. Like, if Britney comes out and says, like, "No, you guys are wrong. I want Jamie to be my dad to be in charge of my conservatorship," people would back off.
right,
I think it's because she's been so, like, giving hints and kind of in support of the movement that people are really fighting for her, and that's part of the reason I think she's been able to get her dad and a bank to be in charge of her finances, so I feel bad.
totally. I mean, I just think, like, even when she was little, it's like, even when she was little, she didn't have control of what she wanted to do. Like, they were putting her into this Mickey Mouse clubhouse. They were doing all this stuff. She was under 18, like she couldn't make her own decisions. And then I think it's so easy to just get wrapped up in this whole world. And I remember there was an interview, I want to say it was like 2004 maybe, and she just said, "Oh yeah, like my greatest wish, I would love to have a family and maybe do this
Yeah.
stuff on the side." And then it's just like looking at when she was younger too, there was a part of the documentary where her father was like not really in the picture when she was younger, and he just said, "Oh, like my daughter's going to be a star, I want her to buy me a boat." And then it's like all these mental health struggles really heightened in that 2008 time, and the father immediately comes back into the picture and takes her, and then it's just like she's like a workhorse, like show after show after album. And it's just like she never had the opportunity to do what she wanted to do, which is just to like live normally and just raise her family. And you could tell how much care she had for her children, and that's all she wanted to do. And then it's just like looking at it now, looking at her Instagram just feels so, and I don't want to make assumptions, but it just feels so like unlike her and so creepy almost. It's just like the videos she uses, which it's just her, the way she acts on social media is not how she used to. Like the messages seem so like cryptic and seem like it's like trying to get a message out. And I just noticed like she just doesn't look how she used to look. Like it just it's just it's concerning. It doesn't look like they're taking care of her if she is under someone's watch, or she's like being able to take care of herself, which I'm sure she wants to. And it's just it's I feel so bad, and it's just so frustrating that everything led up to this.
Yeah, it really is so frustrating, and I mean, this is obviously the documentary is gonna get a lot of traction, and so it's just, like, gonna be really interesting to see how this unfolds. Hopefully, her dad isn't in charge of her conservatorship in the near future if that's really what Britney wants, but I think at the end of the day, it's like, she's been the industry of everyone has put the industry of Britney Spears at the forefront and care so much about the business that I just like the person. It really needs to be about Britney as a person. And so hopefully like she'll finally be free and like be able to make decisions that she wants to make. And if she wants to work again, she gets to work. And if she does it, she does it. And if that means we never get to go to a Britney concert, oh well. Like if that's
I
what's best for
agree.
her. So hopefully, you know, maybe this documentary will open a door and get more it will get more media attention, and hopefully like this will be one of the reasons maybe that her dad gets taken off a conservatorship and she gets to really be happy. So that's I think what everybody wants for Britney.
I agree. And I think just the conservatorship is so unprecedented in this way because it's usually used for elderly people who can no longer care for themselves. And it's really never been used for someone like Britney who has a say and is saying like can do it on her own. And so I don't know how this law works or how this works to get rid of it, but I hope more attention is going to be good for it or good
Exactly.
for her.
Exactly.